service, which is like quality time, um, physical touch, acts of service, gifts, and affirmations. So usually they say whatever you lacked as from childhood is what you look for in adulthood from your partner. So essentially,
wouldn't that be more so like trying to like repeat traumas or trying to deal with traumas in a?
I don't feel like it would be I don't feel like it would be repeating traumas and stuff. I absolutely think that that would definitely be one of those things of having a better understanding of each other. But what we're going to talk about today is how um, romance seems to be against the feminist movement. Because we're trying to backpedal on the conversation that we had last week in regards to the feminist movement and how with the disconnect of women and men is attributed a lot to the feminist movement and the waves of the feminist movement, how that has put a very big wedge between our romance with one another. A lot of people would say that relationships and marriages are essentially business deals. In my perspective, I feel as though that a relationship is a prerequisite of what marriage will be. And I do look at it as marriage is essentially a business deal because you're trying to bring, well, I don't know if that's attributed to me being an entrepreneur too, because like me being an entrepreneur, I think of a lot of things business savvy. Because, I'm not going to go into business with someone who isn't going to be able to bring something to the table. But this is something that me and my cousin, I actually have him here today. He's in the background, though, because he want to, be on camera, but it's all right. So if you guys remember, I think it was episode 2. I think episode 2 was really, no, actually it was episode 1. I was talking about my cousin who gave me a reality check at age 23. That's who we have here today. And I'm actually excited because we're going to have a great dialogue in regards to what romance is, men versus women, and why there's such a disconnect with men and women today, and how can we bridge that gap with understanding. So, I absolutely feel as though that this is a great conversation to have. It's absolutely necessary, especially within the Black community, considering how the nuclear family is on a downward spiral. Let's try to bring that trajectory back up. So yeah, back to what we were saying. So when it comes down to the concept of romance, you would absolutely say men and women obviously view it differently, right?
Well, it's more so the how it is to be presented, but romance is ultimately the way you show that you care for the other person. It's like you're thinking about their needs and you give that to them.
Okay.
So the traditional man, so typically you hear about, what a man would traditionally do for romance. So you care that you're seeing him putting flower petals on the bed. You got the room full of scented candles.
Mm-hmm.
So you're building the atmosphere. And then, you can either provide, actual flowers, a poem of some sort, whatever. And it's all forms of role, and then in a sense too, that's all forms of role play before you're getting down to business, right?
Because that's what it's all leading to, right? All that shit is for that, right?
But you care about the details.
Right.
You care about that he's putting effort into the whole thing. Instead of you just coming in the house, there's no sheets on the bed, and he's like, "Let's go."
Right, because actually, it's like one of the podcasts. Because so my cousin and I, we have a group chat, and we go back and forth in regards to like different videos and stuff for reference points of views and perspectives. Because a lot of women will say, okay, a man, go ahead, take me on a date. Doesn't matter how long it's been. I expect the man to pay. But if a man was to reverse it and say, okay, well, I want sex right here, right now, we're looking like, oh my God, no way.
Right on the table.
And then you'll have, the freaky leaks that be like, right here, right now, outside, right. DTG.
And those are the ones that'll get married first.
Those are the ones that get married first, really?
No, that's not what happened.
You don't think so?
No.
I know plenty of them.
I'm crying.
I know plenty of them. Just the fact that they know their woman to do that for them, that's
So
like I used to
essentially,
switch my
wait,
life.
so then that's like,
That's what I'm saying. The woman that will agree to that.
But this is after you establish a relationship.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Those are the ones that get married faster because their mans know, yo, what I want, she'll do.
Okay. Good.
I mean, so essentially that's like busting the myth of you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Apparently you can.
No, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife.
All right, so
You can't turn a hoe into a housewife.
You can or can't?
You can't.
Okay.
But if you want a hoe as a housewife, then she's the perfect wife. You can't change a person.
Wait, how does that? Hold on.
Because it's exclusively for him.
That's what he wants. You can't turn a hoe by definition into a housewife by definition. But if you want your housewife to be a hoe, you can find that a whole lot faster. How many niggas? I know niggas personally that be like, yo, hoes are more fun. I hang out with hoes, like actual like hoes. That's as far as that conversation will go. I know a lot of them. I know what they do. Those are my niggas. I have more fun going to the clubs with them than when I go with my niggas, cause they get lit. Like, and if a nigga wants that in his life, if that's what he wants to enjoy, if he's like, yo, this is the type of life I want all the time. Mm-hmm. I know plenty of those hoes that are happy. Plenty of them.
Interesting.
Plenty of them got men at home just a smiling. His girl is out wilding, and but she goes home and handles business. So he's at home like she's good.
That is crazy.
So if you're looking into the sexual aspect of that, it's still in exclusivity.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we heard the lady in the streets, freak in the sheets type deal. So like if you were to expound on that, it's more so to say that you know that this woman has standards and she's not all out there, and then when there's exclusivity between you and her, so it's like saying she fulfills your sexual needs and fantasies for you, her man, boyfriend, her husband, whatever it is.
Yep.
And then obviously there's no knowledge of her in the past doing that for every Tom, Dick, and Harry walking down the street.
But that's interesting for
because
me here.
I'm pretty sure, didn't you see that video before where that man was speaking to his wife, and he was saying that there was like she gave him pressure in order to marry her.
Yes, I remember that.
She didn't even understand that by asking him to be monogamous, that means it's up to her to fulfill his sexual needs.
Yes.
All of them.
And she didn't understand
all of them.
But I feel as though that, alright, so to expound on that point, I do feel as though that is a part of the big disconnect between men and women, because I feel as though that, and I know that's the number one thing women say, I feel.
Y'all always feel something.
Be emotional, damn it. Emotional. I'm kidding.
Y'all gonna feel some shit. If nothing else, y'all gonna feel some shit.
You gonna feel me, alright? Anyways, so you know, when we talk about like when it comes down to like even what I was saying before the intro of this video, like romance for me, essentially, it has a lot to do with the little things, and that has a lot to do with my childhood, because granted, you know, my parents spoiled the hell out of me. You know, I was always told I was, you know, a good kid, so on and so forth. Well, however, a lot of the things that I do ultimately desire from a relationship has everything to do with so I got gifts a lot as a kid, and I got acts of service a lot as a kid. Quality time, so-so, because my parents worked a lot. And then as far as affirmations, so-so, because, you know, with them not always being around, I didn't always hear the things that I'd like to hear. Mostly, you know, heard the great things when I achieved greatness, you know, how that goes. And then, what's the other one? So,
affirmations.
I already did the affirmations, quality time, acts of service, gifts. How?
Touch.
Physical touch.
Physical touch, yeah.
So physical touch is another thing too. Like sometimes it is hard. Well, I've been working on that a lot over the years, and my kids actually have been the biggest thing for me to help work that, because of the fact that my kids, you know, that's all they want is hugs and stuff like that. So like those, when we talk about the top three is the, you know, affirmations, physical touch, and quality time, because that's the things that I didn't really have as a child. Now, when we put that into, you know, as an adult, that's what I deem to be romance for me personally. But what I've noticed is a lot of people, because of their love language, will help them identify what is romance to them.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Like, do you feel as though that could possibly help people to figure this out? Because essentially, we're having a huge disconnect with men and women figuring out what is romance.
I think the problem is people are trying to get together and then figure that shit out. Figure out what the hell you need first, because you and that other person might not, like, a person that needs physical touch might not necessarily clash well with the person that likes acts of service, because yo, you want to go out and do all of this and do all of that, I just want to stay here and hold you for an hour. So we have a disconnect now because we're trying to seek this thing that we need in a person that don't necessarily want to give that.
So would it
If you're asking a person to love you enough to change that, you could be asking for a lot. As opposed to just admitting that person might not be for you, and you might need to go find somebody whose love language is also physical touch, because it'll just be easier for you guys to give each other what you need, instead of begging this person who just wants to go out and buy things to feel better,
right,
to stay home and hold you,
right,
because they're gonna do that. But then now there's a constant battle of reciprocation for love.
Okay.
Yo, if you hug me, I'll bring you out, and that means we love each other. Maybe it don't. Maybe I just need to find somebody that want to hug me, or maybe I need to go find somebody that likes retail therapy as much as I do. Because if we hit the bag together, we've never been happier.
Okay. What would you say?
I understand the intentions, but I think wouldn't that be something more so to work on yourself?
That's what I said. That's what I started that with. Figure out what the hell you want first before you start asking the next person to give it to you.
Well, it's not even. All right. So the way I see it is, I actually see it as an issue, because I mean, without going into detail on why physical touch is most likely not in your love language. The thing is, when you look at the root as to why you have these things, it can show you how it's also a problem. Because if gift giving is your love language, most people are going to spell that out as money.
Okay.
Because if I don't have the creativity to
create something,
you know, write out poems or make some other sentimental gestures or anything like that, then when you tell me your love language is gifts, I'm thinking that I'm just spending cash the whole time. But then also, if you're thinking my love language is gifts, because when I was a child, my parents gave me gifts, but they gave you gifts because they failed to show you love in other ways,
right?
Which is what you really wanted, was their attention and their time.
Yeah.
And they didn't give that to you
because they were
too absorbed in the conflicts they have with each other and everything else, and conflicts they have in everything else in their life. That's no different, you know. You don't see your child and all you're doing is buying them gifts to make them feel love for you.
Like, so,
which I see a lot of.
It happens a lot even in present day, but I feel as though, like, you know, back then, especially, like, all right, so I always bring into the fact that being first generation, I have immigrant parents, so does my cousin. You know, all they did was work because that's all they were, you know, programmed to do. That's all they know, and that's how they felt that that's the best thing that they can get done. But nowadays, like, when we think of modern times and our society and generation that we have here and now, we have a lot of women and men, whether they're working or they're simply out, like, trying to have their best life, or, you know, live the childhood they didn't have, or whatever the case may be. We have a lot of children today still suffering with that same type of concept, because a lot of parents think gifting or materials and all that other stuff is showing how much they love their kid because they're showering them in gifts. When, in my opinion, a lot has to do with the physical touch, quality time, and the affirmations are pouring into your child, you know, wisdom and stuff of that nature, because essentially you have to give them, you know, tools and resources and that wisdom so that they can navigate this cool world.
So what I'm essentially saying as well is, I don't think love language is more so a real thing.
Okay.
Because in romance, you're showing someone that you care for them and you're thinking about them, thinking about their needs.
So we could just say romance as a whole, generally speaking, is just the small things.
So you should understand how So you should understand how someone is showing you that they care.
Okay.
Because when you say love languages, you're saying I require that these things to be shown that you love me.
Mm-hmm.
And if those things aren't there, then
and
that's
if those things
impossible.
that come naturally to you, that is a lot that you're
Have to work on yourself.
yeah. But
Okay.
so isn't that so that would also essentially be not being yourself,
Okay.
and it's hard to not be yourself.
Okay. I mean, I can understand that. Like,
So, but the thing is that a lot of what's considered to be romance too, in a woman and a man's view, still has to do with the traditional way of doing things, with the nuclear family.
which is like the biggest point of this whole podcast is really to bring the the awareness to the lack of nuclear families within our community, to show how disconnected we are as a community and how we really need to bridge the gap, because we're failing horribly at this.
Yeah, but you're unable to. So we're unable to even do the romance in our respective roles because the role is no longer there. Because so when women talk about that they want to be wined and dined, they want to be shown, the details.
Can't cook cereal.
That's because
Can't cook cereal. Bye.
That same woman that wants
God.
that same woman that wants that can't cook cereal.
Yo, that's wild.
But that still comes from giving the woman a break. Because otherwise she'd be in the home, cooking, cleaning, rearing the children, going grocery shopping.
Okay, all right. So I see what you're saying. So basically, you're saying, right, that if we have the traditional roles set in place, right, and the woman is at home cooking, cleaning, tending to the children, tending to the home, making the house a home, so on and so forth. So a lot of her time is being spent in the home, or with duties. When a man takes her out to dinner or treats her to somewhere, that's her getting removed from her normal day-to-day duties. So that is him being romantic to her. But we have, in today's generation, put it to a point where that's like an expectation and you need to be able to do that. And that's not romance. Or women think that taking a man out or doing things for a man that we would expect from a man to do for us is because now we've had more women becoming more men.
I don't know, you kind of lost me.
I get what you're saying. Saying. Oh my God, this is gonna sound sexist, but I'm not sexist, I swear. As you push that gauge for the equality of roles, you need things to stand on. The more things you're standing on, the harder it is to go back to those things. So if we're both out working, doing all of this stuff, and I find value in coming home to a clean house, but the house is dirty because neither one of us have been home all day.
Yep. And which is the most common thing that happens.
And I used to see that happen a lot in my house, and I never understood it until I got older. My parents used to beef all the time because my father would come home from work and do dishes sometimes, and I never understood it until I started working in my father's field with him. And in his field,
it's a lot of labor and
it's you're working with group home kids. You're a mom all day to 7-8 kids in the house. To come home after I just washed a bunch of nasty teenagers' dishes, and I gotta wash my own kids' dishes when my wife's been home all day, I'm gonna have some shit to say.
Yeah.
This is my peace of mind. I wanna come home, watch the football game, and not worry about shit. I've been washing dishes all day. I've been cleaning up after nasty teenage boys all day. I come home, and there's dishes in my sink. That matters to me. So I'm gonna lose it and look at you like, yo, what the fuck you been doing all day? The kids was in school till 3.
Yeah.
2 of them came home and went back outside until 8. I came home at 11. You had 12 hours to do these fucking dishes.
Well, see, and actually I've had this conversation because a lot of people, there's the big talk about like what is marriage, or how people want the ceremony, not the actual marriage, because they don't understand the concept of marriage as work. And I always bring up my aunt. She's like my favorite example of what marriage is and how I actually look at marriage. And I broke down her schedule, right? So my uncle worked third shift. My aunt hasn't had to work since like 91, 92. She's been a homemaker since, right? Now, remember, third shift, 11 to 7. So 11 p.m., 7 a.m. So her day would start at 5:30 in the morning, and she's getting the herself situated and stuff, which I don't even know what she was really cleaning, because not for nothing, if you know my aunt and my cousins and them, that house is spotless. At any given freaking point, you could go to the house and eat off the floor. All right, listen to me.
That's why though, because she cleaned up clean shit.
Listen, no, it's insane. Because like even when my cousin, I was like talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, I'm doing spring cleaning." I said, "Bitch, what kind of spring cleaning are you doing? That house is already spring and cleaned." Like,
it's too short to reach the top of the fridge though.
Yo, I swear. All right, so back to what I was saying. All right, so she would get up at 5:30 in the morning, right? They had 3 girls. The breakfast was getting started or whatever the case may be. She was getting basically his clothes and everything of what he would change into ready. And she was getting the kids' clothes ready and, making sure that they're, ready to go for school and everything like that. The girls would get up, they eat their breakfast. She'll go ahead and make sure that they're ready for school. So by the time he pulls up, because he gets out of work at 7 a.m. So by the time he pulls up, they're coming right outside, no hesitation, and so he could drop them off to school. Now, along the way, he was picking my black ass up because shit, I needed a ride too. So he'd go ahead and, take us to school. And so as he's going home, his breakfast is hot and ready when he hit the table. As soon as he hit the door, here's your plate. You know what I'm saying? So now he's eating his breakfast. Maybe that's their time of having their like little one-on-one time. Then he goes to sleep. And he's sleeping until 2:30, 3 o'clock by the time the kids are coming home from school.
Yep.
During that time period, she's able to watch like her shows as she's doing laundry. She's already did the dishes. The house is already cleaned or whatever the case may be. She's already prepping the things that's going to be for the snacks or the lunch or whatever the case may be when the kids get home. Now, the kids are home. They're having their snacks or lunches, and, he's having his lunch too because he just got up. They're going ahead and, like, the homework's getting done. Now, during that period, she's having lunch with them. As soon as she's done, back to washing the dishes, prepping the stuff for dinner, okay? During that time period of, lunch to dinner, he's doing his Bible study, he's having his downtime, right? Now, dinner comes. They're sitting at the table as a family having their dinner. Now, after that, she's cleaning up again, making sure the kids get ready, and now they're going, getting prepped to go to bed for school. They have their little downtime on TV, whatever. What I emphasize on, because those kids went to bed maybe like between 8 and 9 o'clock, is that during that time period, between 8 o'clock, okay, up until 10 o'clock, that was them time, okay? And when it hit 10 o'clock, he's going to take a shower. She's ironing his clothes so that it's nice and hot and ready for him when he gets out. He gets dressed and he's off to work. They both slept alone, essentially, because they had 2 different schedules. But when I tell you there was such peace and harmony and such smoothness in that family up until even today, like it's insane. But we don't talk about that. They found a system that
worked.
Exactly.
But I think the issue is listen to how in depth that level of exchange was. And there was checks and balance in there, right?
Yeah. It was romantic all the way around.
What'll happen is you will get a woman that will do half of that and still expect that man.
Balance.
Look at what she's going through to keep that man happy. Not necessarily going through, but look at that's how she's keeping him.
Yeah.
That's how she's keeping him. If you want to, all right, so you don't want to iron clothes, you don't want to do dishes, you're giving the kids chicken nuggets every day. No, you don't deserve me.
And another thing too, like I like to highlight is, okay, so obviously I've talked about it before. I am Cape Verdean and Senegalese. We do come from very traditional backgrounds, so our family is straight from Africa. And when we talk about modern women in in today's society and Western society, and I know you're Jamaican as well, like we can talk about this where a lot of the things that women perceive to be as like work or like, oh, this is slavery, we look at it as our second nature for us because of the fact that we were raised that. Like, even though my mom and my father wasn't together, as soon as I hit that weekend and I'm going to my dad's house, my dad put me to work. You know what I mean? My mom already had me going to work. When it comes to being at home, I still had to take care of myself. And as far as like, she already taught me how to cook. I knew how to cook at the age of like 9. You know, and it would be basic stuff. But then obviously as time goes on, it progresses. And then like when I was at my dad's house, my dad he has his whole, you know, girl that he's been with for years. She wasn't ironing his clothes when I was there on the weekend. I was. Because he wanted to make sure that I understood that that's my duty. You know what I mean? And now when women hear me say it like that, oh, that's my duty, they're looking at, oh, God, like, why would you say that? That is crazy, you know? But essentially, like, you know, it's a way of us catering to our men. And I don't see what's wrong with it if we talk about how, like, you know, society has changed and evolved over the times, especially in the 90s, because that's when, like I said in the last video, you know, that's where they redefine femininity. Now it's the strong black woman that's what femininity is, and that's really not femininity. Like, how do we really sit there and, like, as a society, we collectively know that there's what's considered white femininity and then the strong black woman? Like, how, what was the joke earlier? Like, how is there not,
there's no white strong black woman.
Yeah. Like, it's just crazy, like, how we could know these things. Like, we've joked about it or whatever, because obviously a lot of us have a morbid sense of humor, whether we admit it or not. But, like, we know these things are in front of us, yet we still try to deter away from it and try to show, like, no, being a strong black woman is the way to go. But then when we start talking about the healthcare and, you know, how we have higher mortality rates because of our strength, when we're saying we're in pain, they don't believe us that we're in pain, you know, and they're not seeing how it's actually been embedded in the minds as the strong black women comes from slavery, because we was in the fields with the men. But it wasn't our choice. It wasn't our black men's choice neither. It wasn't them saying, you gotta come in the field with me. It was, you know, the plantation owner.
Work or we die.
Well, it's also with the image of the Jezebel, the mammy, and then the...
What do you mean?
How historically, how...
The 3 roles that they were supposed to fulfill
yeah.
in time of slavery.
The black woman was supposed to...
Being the mammy.
So elaborate on that for me, please.
Because the mammy's the one that's in the house rearing the children.
Yep.
The Jezebel is the one that's breeding amongst the other slaves in order to produce more slaves.
Consider also the promiscuous one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the terminology came from Jezebel, where
Okay.
that was your role. That was get well acquainted with all of them, because you're giving birth to all of their kids.
Wow.
We need more. We need more. You probably look the best, so this is your role.
That's sad.
Yeah, that was the harsh reality.
Yeah.
And praise for it.
Yep. But go off, sis, because black women,
you have to stay strong and not be destroyed.
Yeah, I was about to
not being destroyed in that role.
Me too.
So you get fed false, like, imagery.
Was it Feel Good Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
They call
yes.
it Feel Good
That's exactly what it
Kool-Aid?
was. That's exactly what it was.
And then you have the angry black woman, which is just more so she has to deal with all this, but the anger is going to go towards the man.
Because she's looking at it like, why can't you help me, or why can't you get us the fuck up out of this shit? And, you know, it's crazy because, like, you know, as, you know, for us that's in here, as first generations, and, you know, we actually, like, our parents come from, you know, the actual country and stuff. So a lot of that, like, is received a lot differently than when coming here. And, you know, let me see where I'm trying to go with this.
You're just talking about being able to compare the cultural differences?
Yeah, like, you know, because a lot of times when we think about it, when it comes down to, when they say about romance, and, like, a lot of black women will be like, well, a lot of these black men, who, especially the successful ones, they're going ahead and they're marrying the white women. You know what I mean? They're sitting here saying, like, well, there's not enough men that's out here for us to marry, or that's checking for us.
You chased them all away in your 20s having a hot girl summer. Nah. If we're gonna keep it a buck, if that's the image that y'all are representing, and that's not what men want, it's again, what I said, there's no white strong black women for that reason. They don't believe those ideologies.
But they also
They gonna preach
market it to
them.
us.
They gonna preach. Hell yeah, because I'm
They
gonna make my
market
money at the end of the day.
hell out of it to
But
us.
they don't believe in it. Karen gonna tell you to fight for your rights and then go home to her husband and cook him dinner.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like that image gets portrayed, and it's like so. And then the stigma that gets put on it is like, you know, my uphill battle all life. Oh, you're so white. When you're proper, when you speak well, when my parents did a good job, now I'm white.
Right.
You just discredited all the years that my hustling father went against his nature to raise me right.
Yep.
You discredit all of that by calling me a white kid.
Right.
Because I don't use all the same slang as you or everything like
or
that.
Considered sellouts and coons.
So when I grow up and Becky is just motivating the hell out of me, guess who's getting the ring?
Becky.
Becky gonna get the ring because Tiffany told me to fuck off because I wasn't a baller. Becky stayed with me all through med school while I was trying to get my shit together, and now she's reaping the benefits. Because she didn't need $300 dates every week. She was like, nah, put that $300 in a savings so by the time we're 35, we could buy a fucking house. It's the message that gets put across. It's the message that gets put across, and now what happens is it's an uphill battle because now you're trying to fight. You're trying to still have that mentality, but fight to keep Becky away from your men. Becky's not gonna call me white because I talk proper.
But see, you know what's interesting to me, and I've actually come to really realize this for myself, that not every white person in the United States is actually even white.
No, that ethnicity doesn't exist.
Yeah. Like
what is white?
We have to come to realize, like, you know, not only are we at such disadvantage with romance or, you know, romantic relationships or, you know, marriages and nuclear families and things like that, we also segregate ourselves so dramatically. And like even with for example, like growing up, they used to call us African booty scratchers, and you know, they used to mock us and stuff like that because we're first generation. We speak the language, we like, you know, resonate with the culture and everything like that. And so now we have, you know, a lot of like I get told, oh, you're not even black. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, I'm African American, so therefore I'm one and the same with y'all. Whether, like, what a lot of people don't understand, and I'll go over it one day, is the history of Cape Verde and how it was actual slave ports. You know, so things that were occurring in, you know, the United States with the slavery that was presented in the Western society was heavily done on the Cape Verdean Islands. Because we had been colonized by Spain, the British, French, and Portugal. Like, we were colonized 4 times. You know, we only got our independence, was it 1970 something?
Recent.
Like, yeah, it's only been 45 years that we've had our independence. So, for me, it's just like, I really wish more people understood. And, like, you know, and if anything, I feel as though a lot of black women can actually get a lot more from women who come from said cultures, because we can show them what is tradition. Because tradition in the United States has been broken so much down that they really think the rites of passage for black women is being a strong black woman. And it's not. It's going against your true nature. And it's sad because there's a lot of women that's heading towards the trajectory of being alone and essentially bitter and miserable. Because, you know, when we think about the feminist movement, I keep telling people, we are now seeing the product of what the feminist movement has done coming in full circle today. Because the feminist movement was first started in the 1960s, and, you know, if we think about that, that's Generation X. So Generation X is, you know, essentially our parents and maybe some, well, these days, some grandparents. So those women are who we as, you know, the millennials should be looking at, and as the, you know, Generation Z should be looking at to see, okay, does the feminist movement actually work? Because we're really, like, you can see a lot of them are single, bitter, and they've given a lot of misdirection to the younger crowd.
What I don't like about the message that gets put across. And we were saying earlier, sometimes it's not what's being said, it's how it's being said.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, before I make my point, Dame Dash. How many people can't stand Dame Dash every time he opens his mouth? But he's never doing nothing but dropping gems.
Yeah.
It's just it's him.
Well, yeah.
So it's the same thing, because
But just like Candace Owens, I mean,
but
if we go with the same concept with a black woman who's basically trying to have other black women wake up, smell the coffee, and hold things, accountable, and understand where we are in this society and where we're headed towards.
oh no, but she's pandering to white men. That's what they say about her. They say she panders to white men.
Because she's also married, so. But not for nothing, if y'all like Kamala Harris, if y'all like Judge Jackson or whatever her name is, y'all should like Candace Owens. Just saying. It's all one and the same in my eyes.
What I was going to say earlier, before I forget, is a lot of times the message that gets pushed across is, oh, we're doing this for as far as feminism, it's like, oh, we're fighting for, women's rights, and we're fighting for all the years of, women not being treated fairly and all of this other stuff.
It's backfired.
And then no, it's not. Horrifically,
yes.
But go talk to your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Go talk to your mom if she's old enough, and ask them if they agree with half of your ideologies. Because you're not fighting for that at that point.
You're right.
You're fighting for yourself.
Right.
And now your message is muddying the waters of feminism because you don't even know what you're fighting for anymore.
Right.
Because a lot of those women don't see how the women's behaviors are today, and they're like, this isn't what we wanted.
Right. But in my eyes, in my perspective, because I actually got asked that, as far as do I think that women are oppressed, and I really do not. The only war we have right now as far as women is the gender war, in the sense of them redefining what a woman is, and discrediting things that actual women go through, such as the infertility, the periods, the womb, things of that nature. But yeah,
the list goes on.
So the list goes on with that. So that's the only thing I could say, okay, you know what, we got this to deal with. But however, we invited that, through the feminist movement, essentially. And also I like to emphasize on the fact that the woman, the feminist movement it's like, how does it go? Things start off good or with good intentions, and then it just trickles over into corruption, and it just goes downhill from there. Because essentially, the feminist movement was supposed to represent for women's suffrage. Now, women's suffrage, what is women's suffrage at that time, was the abuse, whether it be physically, emotionally, financial abuse. Because there are some men, and not all, but there are some men who actually abuse power, or they go through power trips, or whatever the case may be. We understand that exists. So, in that sense, I'm all for the fighting inequality of that aspect of it. You know what I'm saying? Because women should be treated as humans. Yes, we should be given with respect. Yes, but what we ask for, especially when we start talking about what do you bring to the table, I truly, wholeheartedly feel as though we cannot be asking for nothing that we don't provide ourselves. Whether it be self-respect, self-care, honesty, integrity. Things of that nature, the list goes on. We can't sit there and come to the table and ask for a man to respect us if we don't respect ourselves.
Real ass bitch give a fuck about a nigga, right?
But listen, we can't sit there and ask for a man to come and be honest with us if we're not honest with ourselves. We can't come and ask a man, these are the things that I really wish a lot more women would, understand, that we really got to take a step back and assess ourselves and really be more a little rational with our thinking in that aspect. Especially because I also, we was just talking about this. Was it yesterday or Sunday? No, Sunday. We was so me and my cousin, we was discussing about how I truly feel that a man, interested in a woman, whatever, she needs to have at the very minimum, or very most, 5 women that she actually is close to, or 5 people that she's closest to. It doesn't have to be women. I'm sorry. It could be men or women, but 5. Men only need 3. Because what happens is when you go ahead and you go date the person, or you're intrigued by the person, you recognize who is their immediate circle. And out of those 5 people within the women's circle, at the very minimum, 2 of them are going to be the ones to really let you know who this woman is, because
If you're lucky, might just be one.
it might be one,
Yeah.
but regardless,
On average,
the odds are higher for the man to understand that there is at least someone there to actually show the woman's true colors.
Mhm.
Because the thing is that a lot of us are approaching the dating pool or the cesspool, like I like to call it,
Mhm.
you know, with the intentions of, okay, this is what it's going to be, but then we're not realizing that a lot of us have yes men in our corner, or we have women who are actually contributing to our detriment when it comes to the women's sisterhood. A lot of the women, we're essentially all in competition with each other. It's sick. It really is. Unless you have a very healthy, well-rounded mindset. So it's not really like you're in competition with anybody, because shit, you already know what you bring to the table. You're being realistic with who you are. And most people are not being their most authentic selves. That for me is
Because we're not taught to anymore. We're not taught to be ourselves anymore. We're taught to be what we think people want to see, and our easiest access to that are these.
our phones.
All we're taught is to be what we see other people being, or we think people want to see us be. So if we're so busy doing that, what's the point of being myself?
Yeah, see.
They
crazy to me.
freaking, I think Nicki Minaj just did a sit down with Joe, and she said that about music. And I think that relates to way more than just music. But she was like, yo, if you're so busy jumping on every wave when it comes out because you think that's what's hot,
Yeah.
and that's what becomes relevant, you become faceless.
Well, yeah, because if you stand for anything, you fall. I mean, you stand for nothing, you fall for anything.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
become faceless. Who are you? Who are
Right.
you? You're part of this.
Right.
You're not you, and you did this. You're part of that, because
Right.
you're gonna do that sound, and we know if music changes in 2 years to something else, you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
If the feminism movement changes to something else in 2 years, you're gonna move to that.
Yeah.
Now your whole movement is
Right.
faceless.
Yep. I agree. How about you?
I just think we got away from the point of the romance and so on.
All right, so back to the romance.
I'm talking
What-
about that's supposed to be drive a point, isn't it? So
I mean, yeah, but you know, per usual, I always end up
Per
going, and then we try to come back.
Rabbit hole.
trying to bring it back.
So, as far as the romance, how do you think we can bridge the gap with men and women?
Well, we didn't even finished it because we only talked about
Oh, okay. So
how
elaborate.
the woman's view of romance breeds from the woman's traditional role.
Well, that's what. So the women's like a woman to be romantic to a man is basically essentially fulfilling her traditional role of what is desired of a woman from a man.
Sorry, I don't know why you keep talking like that. I'm confused.
No, I'm saying so. Like, all right, so
I said yes. From a traditional sense, the woman's view of romance is seen to come from being in a traditional role with a man, because in fulfilling her roles, we're showing her care by giving her that break.
okay,
And then so when it comes to the traditional man, he's the one that's supposed to be going to work 8 to 12 hours a day, whatever, and then he comes home and he doesn't have to worry about there not being food to eat. He doesn't have to come to a clustered home. The children are already, I'll say, prepared, because sitting down to that dinner with the family is where you're actually able to find out what's going on in your children's lives.
oh yeah,
So
yep.
so that you can give them understanding about what's going on with them socially, or any sort of challenges that your kids are facing with themselves. You can you can check on their education and whatnot, which that allows both sides to do that. And so he can actually come home, relax, and also do his part in rearing the children. But you gotta come home, and there's just still more work for you to do, because you both just got home, and then now there's more things to clean up.
Right.
Because while you're away from home, you're not trying to pay for a babysitter either, so the kids just wreck wherever they're direct.
That was another point I did make too, because I was saying how like people really have to be realistic with the setup and responsibilities within their dynamic, because especially when we think about the concept of childcare, if you have one kid, I remember I was paying $198 a week for my son's preschool, and that's just my son. You know what I mean? Let alone if there's 2 or 3 kids in the home, and then to think, okay, my son alone was costing me almost $800 a month, let alone if there was more kids. Then it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to work for what? Just to pay childcare when I could just stay home, because regardless, we're not seeing that money anyways, and I could just be home and I don't even have to worry about bringing my kid to childcare, and I can actually pour into my child and be more involved with my child and tend to my child. And I feel like a lot of people miss that point because they think that by going to work, they're generating this money and it's additional income, and so there's no big deal of childcare. Until that kid gets to actual school age, it's actually big.
Well, you can also look at it in a personal aspect. You can't be a strong black woman if you ain't going to work.
Right.
Exactly.
You can't be a strong black woman if you be in a housewife.
And you bet not have a man in that house. We giving you all this government money. You bet not.
Well, no, there's a lot of strong black women who don't even receive daddy government money. They're the ones that
you're
have
the
PhDs.
Y'all are the success to the experiment. Y'all are the success to the experiment. If you want to break this system, you can break the system, but the mentality's already there. You're gonna do it all by yourself, and you're gonna still have that "why do I need a man" mentality. Whether you're in it or out of it, the system works.
That's crazy. Well, systems are designed to
perpetuate itself. So.
Yeah, systems are. Yo, like I told you all the time, I respect the pimp when I see one, and America's the biggest pimp in the world. Because America will tell you some shit right to your face, and you still be sitting there like, huh? Alright, I'm gonna do it. I don't know what you said, but I'm gonna do it because it sound good. Like that's what America do. Yeah, that's what America do. Yo, do this, do that. Yo, you got this. You got this, sis. Like that's all America always do. They give you some shit like, yo, you got this.
That's interesting. It's ultimately like really sad though, because it's just like, even with bringing this awareness, there's still going to be a lot of women who's going to sit there and rebuttal. There's going to be a lot of women sitting there thinking that a person's brainwashed or
this episode gonna get you. Oh, you better be ready when this one drops. Especially you got 2 men in the background giving their opinion. Oh hell no! How dare you?
Essentially, like I said, I'm all for women, being respected, being viewed as human, being treated with such respect. But I'm also even bigger on women taking accountability, women understanding that we it's essential to like the whole concept of single women raising sons and stuff. So I would say like what really fueled a lot of my views that I have now is because I have a son. And not only do I have a son, but I have a black son. And I understand more now than ever that a lot of people be like, oh well, it took you all the way to have a son. Well, I was 23 when I had my son, so yeah, it took me to have a son to realize this. But I'm sure I would have came into it anyways, obviously through understanding, the closest men to me. But I really wish a lot of women will understand that women cannot raise men. Whether it be you raising a son or you raising that grown-ass man that you're so infatuated with that knows damn well that, he just ain't going to fulfill the role of what you fantasize him to do.
Let's not get back into it.
Michelle.
We already covered that. My son is my king.
Listening.
My son is my... Shut up.
No,
that little boy wants to play video games and watch SpongeBob. Stop putting all that responsibility on him, yo.
Which we discussed in I think that was episode 5 or 6.
That was episode 5. That was episode 5.
We definitely talked about my son is my king concept. It's very toxic. But yeah, so I honestly am in a position in my world, my minds and stuff like that I really don't care who rebuttals. I really don't give a fuck. Like, essentially, right is right, wrong is wrong, and when we put that concept of right is right, wrong is wrong, women need to take accountability on the wrongdoings that they're doing with trying to be men, because we are not men, and it's actually making it a lot harder for our men. So if we're going to sit there, like, honestly, how I always say what could really tip this, and this is a theory, and I think it was actually you that brought it up, maybe. You could help me figure that out. But if all the women left the workforce, we would have more especially black men employed, and actually making much more money, so that they can give us the lifestyle that we're desiring.
Yeah, that
out of
sounds
our
like
men.
something I might have said.
I think it is something that you did say, because when you ever said that, I was like, that's actually an interesting perspective, because it makes sense. Like, you know, when we talk about how like women are outdoing men.
Y'all are smoking us right now. Y'all statistically, you don't want to agree, but it's the truth. Statistically,
no,
they're smoking us right now.
They're not in the STEM fields.
No.
STEM fields is how you actually build a.
What I'm saying is,
but the other thing you're talking about is when it comes to the degrees.
Yes.
And education.
Yes.
What are they actually being educated with?
Humanitarian.
What scholarships are they actually being given?
Yeah, exactly.
Over other people who would have the opportunity.
That's what that's the main point. Yeah.
But it's like also there was a
because if you have 60% more women going to college to get educated, but of those 60%, 70% are going in there just to get filled with a certain ideology.
Yeah, philosophy.
Then
a degree in that ideology.
critical race theory, you know, the gender studies, or just straight liberal arts, underwater basketball.
Or medical, because medical is very big for a lot of women, like nursing degrees and stuff. That's very big for women to go into.
That's a field that I also feel like.
But then they go to those. But then you hear them go into that field, but then complain that they're not doctors.
And that's what I was gonna say. Is I feel like there are more resentful nurses than there are prideful ones.
Okay.
And I feel like
well,
it's. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you would also be resentful if you have so many people going in there in droves. So then you're treated like you're not a rarity.
And that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Men don't mind that.
But but it is also what they're doing is that.
But what I'm saying is
going into nursing that they have the pick of the litter.
What I'm saying is men don't mind that. In that same field, we are okay being a number
because you understand what you are doing.
We're working.
You understand it's bigger than you too.
We're not trying to make it about ourselves. We know that we're part of a system. We're going to work within that system. The same as if I'm a construction worker is the same as if I'm a nurse. I am employee number XYZ at the end of the day. But for the other side, I want to come in here and feel important.
Yeah.
I want to come in here and feel like you need me.
Right.
Which, as a woman, you should have those feelings. Go take that shit home. There are people dying in here. You're not important. You are part of a system that is in place to keep this hospital running. And I feel like I love seeing male CNAs. I love seeing male CNAs because they're so few and far between, and everyone that I met loves their job. Why? Because it's stable.
This is gonna have to be a 2-part, just so we know. We're gonna have to like snip.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, we got 25 minutes left, so But it's a stable job. It's a consistent job. You're doing the same thing every day, and you are as men. We know how to detach from our work. We know how to detach.
Work box.
Yeah, we know how to detach from it. Yeah. And I feel like my historically, my mom has been a CNA my entire life. She's great at it, but she's also super emotionally invested in that job.
Right.
When things go wrong, or when something happens, or when things don't go their way, it affects them in a way that I feel like men, whether it's healthy or not, men know how to detach from that. And more of that in a workforce, I feel like is needed.
Now, to bring that concept that you brought right there about men being able to detach, right? How do men view marriages the same as work, right? How do like I'm going somewhere with it. Just answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's like
he said,
both of us are kind of like.
I can see him. He said, like yeah.
It's so. In my opinion, and who the hell am I? But in my opinion, it kind of warps in with the conversation that this all started with romance. It's if I can find that person to provide all the things that I feel like I should get from my significant other, that is the perfect marriage. I don't think there's no cookie cutter. There's no cookie cutter layout to what the perfect marriage looks like. But we're sold that, so we chase that, and that's why a lot of these marriages are ending up in divorce. Because we're chasing another ideology instead of our own.
Wait.
What
Okay, go ahead.
What about you? Like, how do you feel men perceive marriage? Because I know with women, we perceive like it's supposed to be romantic or like like a romanticized
Horse and carriage, swept off of your
Yeah, like
feet.
the Disney princess
50
syndrome,
first dates.
like things of that nature. So like for men, how would you say that men like perceive marriage?
I mean, if an easier way of answering it for me is to say that what I'm looking for in the partner, it's someone that helps to keep my life simple rather than complicated. So I want kids, but there's gonna be a role to be had on who's gonna be able to rear the kids. I don't want my kids outside of the house.
Right.
Meaning having them in this daycare, that daycare, or because then that leaves my kids outside of our control. To say as in you leave the kids susceptible to some negative things to be happening to them.
Yeah, because like kids get hurt, kids get told the mean things, and kids could be mean. I get it.
So there's jealousy or any sort of negativity that's being brought from somebody else onto your kid, and you're not there to even really either. I'm not gonna say really deflect that, but make that a teaching moment to have your child understand what's really going on. Or then I'm pretty sure there's a uncle you don't really want your kids around because
right.
maybe they'll get a bit too touchy feely.
Right.
But that can happen anywhere and everywhere.
Right.
There's also like they show cameras in daycares where your kids actually being neglected and stuff like that.
I'll be damned.
So the woman is a helpmeet in raising the child as well, as in she's giving the kid the emotional needs that she needs, but then also the what I'm trying to instill in the child, I know that she's helped me to instill that in them as well.
Yeah, because isn't it like a hierarchy? It goes the husband, wife, children. So essentially, it's like the what do they call that?
Well, if you're talking about in the case of like religion.
No. I'm talking about even like in how you were in the military and stuff like that. Like it's rankings. So like
well, everything's a hierarchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so, and then but in each rank you have your own
down
job.
the command line or whatever.
You have your own job. Yeah.
No, but all right. So, because when we talk about men being able to detach, right, and like compartmentalize things, and we also bring in like with the concept of marriage and things of that nature, and how he brought up the whole divorce happening, and most women are leaving the marriages and they're filing for divorce for irreconcilable differences, amicable differences, whatever, and men can't do that. It's interesting, in my opinion, how if men can detach, a lot of times they do not detach from toxic relationships and marriages. Why is that?
You trying to lead me to saying the sunk lost fallacy?
Okay. Well, for those who don't know the sunk lost fallacy,
we're not gonna leave our investment. Like you already invested so much. Like
he actually has an IQ of a
yeah, I can tell.
You already invested so much into it. You feel you're losing by it.
So essentially, almost all men carry the sunk lost fallacy.
I mean, all human beings do, but
we all carry cancer cells, but what activates it?
I'm just asking. But,
so,
but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and in the same way, he's saying that we all have the capacity to have a mental illness, but a mental illness is developed.
Okay.
Exactly. That's what I said. We all have cancer cells, but what activates it?
Which they say everything: diet, stress. Like it's almost like everything. But
it's just interesting because a lot of women, you ask them, they'll be like, "Oh, men are the problem." And
so you're trying to go into the regard of, well, he can always leave later on,
right?
But they don't understand that the investment was already made,
right? So I strongly do believe that a lot of women don't realize how the investments work. Essentially, it doesn't matter even if they're an accountant, financial manager, it doesn't matter. But when it comes to the investment in regards to relationships and marriages, for some reason there's a disconnect there. But
but wouldn't you say that women actually do understand it?
They understand to the-
in the sense of where you're trying to trap someone into
Some women get it.
having a kid with them. So
Some-
now the guy's like, oh my god, I don't want my kid to be growing up in this chaos. I
Right.
gotta be his beacon of
Hope.
hope of the straight and narrow. So that's why you end up staying in it, but you're dealing with this person the whole time.
I guess some women do understand that in that retrospect, but I was thinking more so the fact that like how a lot of us women, fear of being bad wives over bad moms. There's a conversation of that going on, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of us women, especially the millennial age, we have been fed to fear men. And especially because a man can leave, a man can do this, a man can do that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's just feeding insecurities.
Okay.
Like that's something you're already anxious about. Your insecurity is used against you at all times. That
And
especially in advertising and marketing.
Yeah, a Cosmo.
You have this insecurity. Here's the solution. Buying these sneakers.
Do you wake up and go to sleep at night?
Do you wake up and feel you don't have enough social status? Buy these Nikes.
So
when you wake up in the morning, do you not feel like you?
So-
Oh yeah, I told you about the Axe body spray too. Like just look at how Axe body spray is projected. The man's just ignored, and as soon as he sprayed himself, not only is the woman whose attention he seeks to gain is giving it to him, but now there's a bunch of random other ones.
Yeah.
Not even Axe. Bod was worse.
Bod.
You don't remember Bod spray? The whole song was just a woman whispering, "I want your bod." It was just like they're like, "Oh shit, let me go buy some of that." Like,
And the bottle was in the shape of what was considered to be having a good physique.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was in shape of the ideal man.
Well,
The
so
idea for
but
the-
it goes to the point like when we talk about how do we solutionize the perspective of romance for men and women, how do we bridge that gap?
Y'all
Like,
should pay more attention to stats.
to stats.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the better way of saying that is like showing when that appreciation or that care is shown.
No, I thought I was referring to more so like bridging the gap of understanding. It's like pay attention to statistics. I know plenty
Yeah,
of
but you
women.
know how I feel
know
about
plenty of women.
statistics.
No. I know plenty of. All right. So all right. Cool. You can feel how you feel about statistics, but they're there for a reason, and it's,
We're collecting this because
I don't want to. I don't want to get into the Kevin. I don't want to get into the Kevin Samuels conversation. But it's like, yo, as soon as 50% of women say that they want what 10% of men can be, the odds are now against you.
A good reason to understand statistics is also to understand how it's manipulated to try to fit
A
your
narrative.
narrative
Yeah.
so that confirmation bias takes its course. So
Okay.
see, I knew it, but you.
Yeah.
Which was funny because I actually wanted to. I was actually going to tell you that as an idea was for you to actually do like a pictorial where you can actually spell out the statistic, where kind of like where they mentioned before that in a fatherless home it was like 63% of youths commit suicide,
Yep.
75 of them with mental illness. But like, so you can actually just take a block, just take a whole block, so 10 houses, and say that in those 10 houses there's 2 children in each one, and all those houses are single family homes. You can actually break down of those 20 children what's going to end up happening to them statistically.
Yeah, that's interesting. We could definitely
And
do
it's
something like that.
and it's very what is the word I'm looking for? It's very dark how accurate those numbers are when you do that. It's very, very dark.
Yeah,
And I work in that system. I work with a group of
essentially
kids.
because like
I
there's-
work with those kids that those things happen to. That's what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
speaking from the other side.
Right, because it's an anecdotal experience because it's firsthand. But it's even like what they talk about when it comes down to the NBA and things of that nature. You have 1 million people, playing basketball. Only I think it's like 7,000 or something that actually go into college doing it, and then from that it's like 136 that actually make it to championship level to get drafted, and then out of that only 7 of them actually go on to the NBA from 1 million.
Yep.
And when we put things into that perspective, it helps you give like a more rational. But it can either encourage you or still encourage you, or it can really much discourage you.
You can
But-
very much be strong enough to go, I'm that 5%. You
Yeah.
can very much be
Right.
strong enough to do that.
Right.
But
Or even
Well,
with
same thing.
entrepreneurship.
So I'm
within the
6'1".
first 5 years.
How many people in the NBA are 6'1"?
Right.
Like 3.
It's 3%.
Yeah, it's like 3 of
Also,
them.
Yeah.
you're 3%. Got it.
But this is what I'm saying. He's already a percentile.
Yeah.
He's over 6 feet.
Yeah.
So
Then,
he's already only 10% of the men in the world.
Right.
And now 55 women want him.
Right.
Which one of y'all is gonna get lucky?
And that's something that I feel as though a lot of women do not realize that that's what.
No,
is
because they feel like they can all get
Especially
him.
Especially in the black community, more specifically, because that's what we're geared towards, is really understanding the fact that this Disney princess syndrome is really going to our detriment, along with the feminist movement. Those two are working hand in hand, jumping us. That we gonna be fucked up.
Beating you from both angles.
Yeah, like boom, boom, like and where when it comes down to understanding what is romance essentially is, like as a synopsis for us to wrap this up, for us to kind of put it out there, is essentially it's the small things. It's do what it is to make the man's life easier, and what it is to show gratitude to the woman that you appreciate her. And a lot of women needed to tear away from the fear mongering of men are gonna leave you, because if you actually go in to the dynamic and with the right mindset and knowing that you're gonna put in the work to keep the harmony going, just like my aunt did. They were married for over 30-something years.
What brings you peace in the house? What helps you? What helps you let that person know that they matter that much to you?
Right.
What things can you do to showcase, I appreciate you as a person, and I appreciate everything you do for me?
Which if you want to break that down, it's still following the system that's being created in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At the end of the day, that's literally
because that's following. That's following his lead.
Yeah.
This is the process. This is the system.
Right.
You're following the SOP.
Now,
you're following the system.
What there will be a lot of pushback on, and I'm sure is the fact that a lot of women will say, well, there's a lot of F-boys out here, and a lot of men can't even lead themselves, let alone lead me.
No, the niggas you fuck with. Yo, I made listen. There's a quote I was gonna staple it, but I don't care. I'm gonna say it because I thought of it and it's genius. A lot of women out here cannot find the man of their dreams because he does not look like the nigga that used to give her nightmares.
Oh shit.
Point blank period.
Yeah, you know what is interesting, because so it's like the concept that they say, like the guys who get overlooked in high school and stuff that lead on to be successful men. Those are the ones that women would deem as like the nerd, the geek, or like
Yeah, but Tyrone that been selling drugs since he was 15 is who you keep chasing in different forms. You keep chasing Tyrone. His name keep changing and his looks might change a little bit. That's cool. That's cool. Call him when you need him. Call him when you need him, but he ain't helpful. Tyrone ain't gonna be helpful. You know what I mean? Like.
All right, ladies. So don't call on Tyrone. All right.
But that's what I'm saying, y'all. You want the man of your dreams, but you want him to look, act, and think like the nigga that's been giving you nightmares since you were 16, 17 years old. Yeah, you're not. Those two parallels do not exist together.
Yeah.
They really don't. Like the women. And this will be the last thing I say. The women that I personally know, that I see them, I love them. I love my friends, but I see some of them just crying for help on social medias and, oh, niggas ain't shit, fuck y'all, men are all the same, da-da-da-da-da. That same girl, go get with a dude that has a PhD in computer technology and works at an IT firm. He will make you the happiest woman in your fucking life. You know why? Because he will appreciate... He will appreciate who you are and what you are. See, to the niggas that live in your world, who you are and what you are is the norm.
Right.
But you go and you take yourself with your great physique and your big lips and all these things that are pushed in the forefront, and you go to the...
Men don't even want...
No, but what I'm saying is, you go to that man and bring him actual traditional value of a woman. He will appreciate all the other extra shit that comes with you that you've spent your life thinking is important. Mm-hmm. He'll appreciate that, but he will value you and love you for what you can bring to him. Mm-hmm. Because the dudes that value those small things, that's all they're ever going to value, is how you look and what you feel like on the inside. That's all they're ever going to care about. Bring actual value to the person outside of your norm. Watch how fucking happy you get.
Right, because a lot of women can't stand when I say this, but I always be like, listen, I really can't stand that rhetoric of, oh, what do you bring to the table? Oh, well, I am the table. No, honey.
No, you're not.
Appetite. You're bringing the appetite, damn it. Essentially the man's supposed to come to we both come to the table, but the man usually has the feast and we come with the appetite. However, a lot of women have to understand that we still should be willing to clean the plates and kind of put it
You
together
came and
so
sat
we
at my
can redo
table
it
for
again.
free and ate for free. Clean the damn dish. Clean the plate.
Isn't that what the busboy and the dishwasher's for?
Oh, we got those? We got those?
This table isn't at a restaurant?
Oh. I mean,
No,
because
no,
if the table's at a restaurant, then it's free range. It's free range
Well,
then.
there are actual men. So for example, there's a podcast called Eight at the Table, and Ricky, I think is his name.
I don't know. I've seen the
I think it's
name.
Ricky.
I've seen the
I
name.
could be wrong, but a lot of women they're like, oh, that's misogyny at its finest. They lose their minds because he was going off saying cleaning, I can either clean or I can hire a maid. Cooking, I can cook myself or I could go get something to eat or get a chef. He's like, what else? Daycare, babysitting, whatever, nanny. All those things can be done.
Yep.
So technically, we don't need y'all. Y'all need us. And back to the other episode I did when I was explaining how the masculine energy doesn't necessarily need the feminine energy.
Participation trophies.
Right.
You covered
because,
that
essentially, I wish more women understood that everything can be outsourced. But if you can go ahead and come in with that, notion and being able to do that naturally for the man, you're gonna save him a shit ton of money, and you're gonna be providing him what it is that he wants. Therefore, he's gonna appreciate you a lot more. Because it's sad how many women really can't cook. That shit's wild to me.
Well, once again, that's why it comes into what I was talking about with the romance reading from the two fitting the traditional role.
Yeah.
Because now there is no traditional role. It's just two men where one.
There are
one
also
is not
men
actually a
sitting there
man.
talking about how they want relationships with no gender roles, which that doesn't make sense to me. Because he's like, we could both cook, we could both hustle, we could both, and what's part of the
that's
problem.
people saying something that they think wants to be heard.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay.
Because
Almost like pandering.
you're already saying the modern woman is competing with the man.
Mm-hmm.
So that means the modern woman is a man. So you have two men in a relationship together,
That's wild.
and that's why you're both having to go out to eat, and someone has to pay for it because someone doesn't know how to cook,
Neither one of y'all
or
can cook.
someone doesn't have the time to cook.
Mhm.
But let's have the excuse of that you make twice as much as me, so you should be the one paying for us to go out to eat.
Right.
We both can't watch the kids, so we have to pay for childcare.
Right.
But you make twice as much as me, so you should be paying the childcare.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I can already
Right.
do those things. So it's just two people already having the same role, and then you're still trying to compensate together the way you would if you were on your own anyway.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me because I was having this conversation and I basically was expanding on the fact that if I cannot rely on you for anything, even the smallest things, what are we here for? What are we doing? Because essentially I should be able to lean on you or need you for certain things, and if anything you should want me to need you because that means I actually find value in you in the sense, you know what I'm saying, as you being the man in the dynamic. And when it comes down to even me for myself, struggle that I've experienced was I work 10, 12 hours sometimes. I have to rearrange my schedule to try to, be able to balance everything in my life. And the way I look at it is if you're going to try to come to me and say, well, you're not cooking, you're not cleaning, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, but you expect me to pay for things or, essentially, like I say, do the bare minimum, I'm no trick. That's what I've been told before. And I'm like, what are you talking about? If I can't rely on you to help me financially in any aspect, right? Outside of, I don't know, let's throw rent out there. Rent, okay, whatever. That has to be paid regardless. We all need shelter, right? But if I cannot rely on you for anything else outside of that, then that means I have to work. Like my cousin was telling me, he's like, okay, what do you go to the salon for? I'm like, I gotta work, I got some bills. So if I can't rely on you for any of that, you know, and it's just like, I don't see how you don't understand. I can't rely on you. I need to go work, and when I'm working all these hours. So yeah, I'm not gonna have the time. But does it mean that I don't want to do it? No. Like I would prefer to tend to the children. I would prefer to be home and make, you know, do my homemaker type of duties. Just because that for me is very rewarding in the sense of that's what I enjoy doing. It's very therapeutic for me, especially considering that I've worked since a young age. So to be able to alleviate myself from the duties of working, of course, that's a no-brainer. And if you actually ask a lot of women, no matter how Miss Independent that they are, a lot of them will say the same thing of if they can choose to either work or be at home, they'd rather be home. And another thing I forgot to point out was even in the midst of my aunt carrying out her duties as a wife and as a homemaker, my uncle gave her a credit card and an allowance. Like, you know what I'm saying? She had both. And also, too, during her downtime, she was babysitting family members or whatever, and she would receive money from that. So she was still generating income, because I feel like that's what a lot of women forget, is that you can still generate income from home. And you don't even have to work from home, per se, like on an actual job. Or there's sometimes you have men who have dreams, aspirations, and goals that they want to do of creating businesses, and essentially the salary that you're desiring, he would more than likely be able to cover, because for one, it's a tax write-off. For two, it's coming right back to the pot of at the home, so it's like a no-brainer. But
she also didn't come into the relationship with an exuberant amount of debt.
Well, yeah, I know
that he would have to.
I get that, because you know times was
take care of because she's no longer working.
But you know, but then that's when a plan could be devised, and I strongly believe in devising strategies and plans and executing it. Mm-hmm. Because if a woman comes with that. Mm-hmm. Not the school debt, because I ain't got the school debt, so that shit wild to me. But if a woman has debt, if the goal is strictly that, she's working to eliminate that debt, and once that debt is eliminated, then she would be able to stay home. I mean, that's something you can work out too. Or pick up a side. I don't know. I don't got what he is. But either way,
look, if you want me to be a housewife, it's gonna cost you $25,000.
Oh, that's a low end, because these school things because of people be coming into a relationship with $100K student loan debt.
Sally Mae do not play no games.
Yo, she don't. And them motherfuckers are gonna find you. They got bounty hunters and shit like that. Shit wild. But as far as like you're saying, when the debt is cleared and we're here in this dynamic, and you're talking about me being a housewife or a homemaker. 25 bands is not bad if you spread that across. Yeah, it's not bad. It's like minimum wage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people work hard for minimum wage.
Yeah. Let me tell you.
Until you do what 70% of women are doing.
Essentially, they are. Yeah, it's fucked
married
up.
Women, man. 70% of married women are doing.
Yeah, essentially.
Of course, that ain't a bad deal.
It's not. Anyways. So, thanks, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. We will be doing a lot more episodes like this where we are actually having conversations. It makes it a lot easier for me, too, because, shit, I be tired of talking. Surprisingly, I know. I knew he was going to do that. Be sure to slide over to Instagram at Sell Your Perspective and slide in our DMs. Let us know what you think or, points that you want us to touch on and topics of conversation you would like to hear. Feel free to comment below and let us know. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe and make sure that bell's on so you can make it ring-a-ding-a-ding so you know that we up in this building and we ready to have conversations that you do enjoy. Thanks, y'all. Have a great night.